live. It takes a second. And there we are. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ready to Talk podcast. My name is A Thoughtful Beast, aka Trixie. I'm here with MaJhané, and she's going to talk about finding mindfulness in 2020 and all of this change and chaos and ebbing and flowing. Before we get started with that, I want to point down to the links below where you'll find two links. One will be linked to MaJhané Dill's podcast. She has her own podcast. So that will be her Instagram, and so you can find her podcast through there and check out samples of her work. And then also we have San Diego's local grassroots bail fund. So remember, please, that people are still protesting. It's just not being aired as much on the news, but it's still happening. So if you're able to give money to help with the bail fund, please do so. And now, before we really get down to it, MaJhané, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. All right. Hello. Once again, my name is MaJhané, and I also go by Mama Maj. I'm a first-year college grad. I graduated from San Diego State in 2017 with my degree in recreation tourism management. I spent some time since post-grad working with a local nonprofit where we taught students the importance of storytelling through creative expression. And since then, now I spend most of my time curating my own podcast, like Trixie said, called Mama Majism, where I like to utilize storytelling myself to express the lessons that I've learned in my life while also attempting to normalize guided meditations. And I do that by leading a guided meditation at the beginning of each podcast episode.
I missed the button. Sorry.
It's all good.
I know.
I'm like, she'll be here soon. It's okay.
So thank you for that. I was just straight up missing. So I know you want to start with that. So let's get down to it. I'm excited. Yeah. This is nice. I don't think we've ever done this on the podcast yet. So
yay. I'm excited. Okay. So how this is going to work, we're going to start with a couple of deep breaths just to loosen the nerves. Not that, we have any, just loosen the nerves and just to kind of get in a nice, calm state. And then, so this meditation in particular is an affirmation. So I'm going to say it, and then Trixie and then everyone else who's listening, just repeat after me. And then we're just going to go back and forth with a couple of different phrases that I have. We'll close out with a couple more deep breaths, and then that'll be the end of it. So it'll be like 2-3 minutes tops.
Cool.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the deep breath. I also like to close my eyes just to kind of really get in the zone. You don't have to if you don't want to, especially for the affirmations. But if you want to, you can go ahead. So now would be the time to do that if you want. We're going to start with a couple of deep breaths. So go ahead and give me a nice, long, slow, deep breath in. Hold. And release. Good. Deep breath in. Hold. And release. Deep breath in. Hold. And release. Great. Now I want you to repeat after me. It won't be easy, but it will get better.
It won't be easy, but it will get better.
It won't be easy, but it will get better.
It won't be easy, but it will get better.
It won't be easy, but it will get better.
It won't be easy, but it will get better.
I trust myself.
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 Just because I'm struggling doesn't mean I'm failing.
Just because I'm struggling doesn't mean I'm failing.
Just because I'm struggling, it doesn't mean I'm failing.
Just because I'm struggling, it doesn't mean I'm failing.
Just because I'm struggling, it doesn't mean I'm failing.
Just because I'm struggling, it doesn't mean I'm failing.
Happiness comes in waves. It will find me again.
Happiness comes in waves. It will find me again.
Happiness comes in waves. It will find me again.
Happiness comes in waves. It will find me again.
Happiness comes in waves. It will find me again.
Happiness comes in waves. It will find me again.
I trust myself.
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 Great. Okay. Deep breath in. Hold. Release. Deep breath in. Hold. Release. Last time, deep breath in. Hold. Release. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes.
That was nice. That was really nice.
Yeah, thank you. I figured, especially with what we're talking about today about being mindful, and then also with it being Suicide Prevention Month, these are some nice affirmations that help to kind of remind you that, you can trust in yourself, and I especially love the last one, which is happiness comes in waves, it will find me again, because it would be a lie if we said that, we can fight depression or feelings of loneliness by being happy 24/7. It's just not possible. We're humans, So knowing that everything kind of happens in a cycle, and we have our moments when we're happy, we have our moments when we're sad. It comes in waves. So if we're not feeling happy in this moment, know that it will come back around.
I love that you said that, because I totally agree. And also, again, with it being Suicide Prevention Month, having that pressure on you to be like, I need to be happy, or like, I need to find happiness, right? Like, I need to find happiness. And then, like, because it doesn't necessarily work that way, where it's like, once you find happiness, end of story, like, then people start really like beating up on themselves to be like, oh, I had it. Like, how come I couldn't keep it? Like, how come I couldn't do that? And then people get really down on themselves, and it's just like, well, it just doesn't work that way. Happiness comes in waves. Like, there's no way that anyone can be happy 24/7. Like, like the, sadness, anger, all those other emotions are still necessary, and they're normal to life.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they also help you to appreciate your happy moments even more.
Yes.
Yeah. So I 1,000% agree.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I want to ask you about your podcast and why you started it. But first, I just want to say that I love your podcast because it's peaceful and it has exercises like this, but it's not. How do I put this? This might be shade. I'm not trying to shade other people. That's not what I'm trying to do. I really like and enjoy your podcast because you have these exercises, but it's not like positive vibes only. It's not like, once we've cleared our mind and breathe, and now nothing bad exists anymore.
Right.
Where it's like, this is our bubble of protection. And I mean, that's fine. Sometimes you need that. I'm not saying people don't need that. But I really enjoy that, like, basically your podcast sets you up to like love yourself and be kind and feel calm if that's what you want. And then we're just also going to talk about real shit. Because that should be okay.
1,000%.
So I really like that.
Wow.
So please tell us about your podcast.
Thank you. Oh, that means so much. I actually didn't even realize that I set it up that way. Because I feel like people who are like, oh, good vibes only, like their intention is there, but it's like, intention versus impact. Like you could be, it might kind of rub off on somebody the wrong way. So thank you. Wow. I thank you. I appreciate that. So a little bit about the pod. So as I said before, or did I say that I also go by Mama Maj?
Yes.
yeah, so how that came about, it came about a little bit in high school. I don't know. I'm the motherly type of friend. Like I've just always been that way. And so especially when I was in college, the last few years that I was there, because it took me a rough start before I actually started getting more involved with different organizations. I just took on that, of course, that mothering role and like the mentorship role. And so like by the time I graduated, I had so many students on campus, whether they were younger than me or older than me, just calling me Mama Maj. And it's like, it was more of a humbling thing for me. And it just made me so proud to know that, you know, my peers respected me enough to see me as somebody who, you know, even if you call me Mama Maj, it's not me saying, oh, you're older than me. And like, you know, it's just more of a respect thing. Like I see that I know that I can come to you and talk to you about anything, and that you won't judge me or you won't make me feel less than. And so I knew that when I graduated, I wanted to start a podcast, but I just never knew how to go about it. So it took me a couple years, not gonna lie, it took me a couple years to kind of figure out, for one, that I didn't need all this stuff that I thought I did. I thought I needed a mic, thought I needed a camera, thought I needed, you know, a studio, you know, I thought I needed all these different things to make me look more or seem more legit, when really all I needed was the passion that I already had, you know? And so, I one day I just decided I don't want to wish for this thing anymore. I just want I just want to make it happen. And so that's just exactly what I did. So that's where the Mama Maj part comes from. And then the ism, ism is like, it can be looked at as, an art or like a way of doing or being. And so when I say Mama Maj ism, it's just a way of being open and being 100% yourself, and you know, being willing to have those conversations that maybe not a lot of people are willing to have, kind of like challenging the norm. That's what I love to do and say as often as possible, especially being a Black woman. You know, I'm already, you know, challenging the norm. So so that's really how the podcast came about. And then through my journey of like self-love and just self-discovery, really, I just noticed how important meditation is and has become in my life, that I wanted to make sure that I incorporated that with the podcast. And so that's why I start every episode with a guided meditation.
And isn't it so cool? Because it's your podcast, you can do whatever you want.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like the freedom is just, I love it.
Yeah, dude. So basically, like, so I'm finally coming out with, like, I call this the Ready to Talk podcast, but I'm actually changing them all into MP3s. And I have like 8 I have 8 interviews I did 2 years ago that I they were live streamed, so it's not like no one saw them, but they were supposed to become a podcast then. And then my life got really strange. And then I was like, I don't know when to like start this up or like when to what. And then I was like, well, why don't I just combine these all together? And it's so funny because like part of me is like, oh, but I need to have like different sections, or I need to have blah, 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 blah. And right now I'm like, no, actually what's more important is that I get it out, because there's so much, like I have guests like you who are so smart and so talented and so thoughtful in your words, that I'm just like, what's important is that gets heard.
Right.
Like nothing else, like everything else is secondary right now. Because I also my podcast, and I was not producing it. Like no one's like, Trixie, we'll pay you to do. No, none of that is happening. So I'm like beholden to myself, which is like such a great feeling to just be like, I can do what I want.
Right. That is so awesome. And I think that it's so cool that you have a platform that you are, you know, you're understanding the importance of, you know, not just your voice, but the voices of so many others who, you know, may have been silenced or just don't realize that they, even if they feel like they don't have something to say, like we all have something to say. We all have like a platform. So I think that it's really awesome that you use yours to help uplift other voices.
Oh, thank you. It's been so freaking cool, like talking to different people, just like just being able to open, I guess, my world. It's not like, obviously, it's not like I live in a little bubble, but everyone lives in some sort of bubble.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be like, oh, my bubble's actually growing. Like, hear more in different people, which, like, now that I get older, I'm like, that's really important because
Definitely.
I talked about this before on this podcast. So my boyfriend was listening to this NPR show, and it was talking about like the science of like people getting older and like stuck in their ways, like, and like what is that? And basically there was this section where it was saying that this study said that basically you turn 35 and your brain just gets much less plastic, like people just stop, like they stop being more open. And we were like, oh crap. It's like we're like older and we're like, no. And so when he said that, I'm like, that means we have to be like a million times more like purposeful about not doing that, because it kind of makes sense, like quote unquote traditionally like people like have babies, and then so their groups become baby groups, and then like you don't have time for X, Y, and Z, so like it really does become a bubble, even if you don't mean for it to be. So having this podcast and the show has been so awesome, because even though like obviously I have something in common with the person I'm talking with, some sort of like at least like belief system or something, or we all enjoy art or something, like it's still, everyone's so different. Like the perspectives are so different because our backgrounds are so different. Yeah. And what everyone wants from life is so different. So thank you. It's been really cool. And like I love that I get to share this with other people. And I do also love it selfishly for me.
As you should, enjoy the fruits of your labor, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to say that MaJhané is from San Diego. So she's a local girl.
Yes.
Which I'm really excited about. I'm really excited to have more San Diego people. That's actually like, it's not where I'm always going to focus, but like I'm trying to learn how to love our community and be really involved.
Yeah.
And so that's so different. Like, and that's something I've actually become mindful.
Yes.
Mindful about, like, in these past couple months, just being like, can I show up for my community? How can I show up for other communities? Like, where can I actually have some sort of impact on like something meaningful, like in terms of like where I spend my money, where I spend my energy, who am I supporting?
Right.
Because it all contributes, it all, like all those choices, like they have an effect. So with that being said, let us know, tell us why you chose mindfulness and why, I know you spoke about it a little bit, and let us know why mindfulness has been super important to you specifically in 2020.
Mindfulness, I feel like it's such a, and it's funny too, I had a friend of mine that I ran into, and she had asked me what mindfulness has done for me. And I kind of felt like a deer in headlights. And I'm like, that's like my whole MO. And I like just didn't have an answer for her right on the spot. Cause I don't really, even though I do practice mindfulness, it's hard to articulate like what it does for me. I kind of think of mindfulness like how I do love. Like love it's so hard to kind of pinpoint exactly what it is that love does for you, or how it makes you feel, or different things like that. And so with mindfulness, it's kind of like, it just forces you to really look inward and look around you and look at the things that you have and the things that you don't have, and just like be mindful that I'm breathing, be mindful that I'm talking to you, and I think it's, especially in the day and age that we are now, where like technology rules the world, and how it's so easy for us to kind of get swept under what everyone else is doing, and us comparing ourselves, whether we match up to that or if we fall short of what they're doing, even though we all have facades on the internet. So who really knows what's actually true or not? And so even being mindful of those thoughts that try and creep in and make me doubt myself, or make me think that I'm not, doing what I need to do for me, which isn't true. It's just really helped me to continue on my path, whether I'm going slow or going fast or whatever, like just going at my pace, which could be fast or slow. Like it doesn't matter because it's my journey. You know, it's the path that I chose to take. So mindfulness has really just helped cement that I am where I need to be and I'm doing what I need to do for me. Now, in terms of 2020, more specifically, the way that this pandemic.
Before we go there, sorry, I just realized that I should have asked you for a definition of mindfulness to those who are new to mindfulness. So before we go on, if you could give us your definition of what mindfulness is.
Yeah, I would say my definition of mindfulness is just being aware. I think in the easiest or in the simplest term that I can put it, it's just being aware. So, like blank. So being aware of you, being aware of others around you. I think a lot of us kind of fall victim to believing that we're the main character, which we are, you know, in our own lives. But, you know, there are so many other people around us who are the main characters in their own lives and not like supporting actors or whatever. So like, it's always important to be mindful that like, yes, we are the main character in our own life, but there are so many other people who are the main characters in their own life. So like being cognizant of the fact that, you know, yes, I have a family that I love and respect and care for, but there is somebody else who maybe I may not agree with. And that's okay. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to wish harm or anything on that person, because at the end of the day, we are all one, whether we want to admit it or not. We're all made up of energies and vibrations. And we all, you know, we all vibrate. We all are here, even with plants, you know, we're all connected. So just being mindful of the fact that like the energy that we carry, you know, it affects others around us, some more than others. And so just being mindful of the energy that we have, that we carry, the people that we keep around us, because that can really affect the way that we move as well. I hope I answered that because I feel like I just went in a big circle.
I thought it was a really good answer. Like, again, like you said, in the simplest term, like being aware of other people. And I really liked what you said about, you know, because we are all connected and we do really affect each other. You know, the kind of energy you put out, like I always talk about being hangry because it happens to me. But, you know, like being aware when you're hangry so that you don't just say something really mean and you didn't really mean it. It's just you're super hangry and you have no patience now. And, you know, just being aware of that will hopefully help you be like,
right, yeah.
I'm hungry. Let's go get a burger before we talk. Or I don't think this is going to go as well.
Yeah.
You know, like that being aware so you're not just like spewing hurtful words or hurtful behaviors when you don't even mean them in the first place, but then they're done. You can't just be like, well, I didn't mean to. It's like, but you did though.
Right.
It still happened.
Right. Yeah. You can't take it back.
No, I can't take it back. Okay, fast forwarding back to 2020.
Back to 2020, the pandemic. Woo, woo, yeah. Oh man, being mindful in 2020. And you know, every month something new, something different, something outrageous happens, right? And then you see those tweets or those posts where everyone's like, throw 2020 away, just go ahead and give me 2021. I'm ready. Like, this is ridiculous. And I think for me, it's helped me. I even have a podcast episode on this. I don't remember which one, but I know we're all familiar with the concept of like having a New Year's resolution or New Year resolution. I don't really necessarily believe in those just because it's like, I feel like if you want to get something done, just do it right in this moment. But I did have goals set for 2020 that I wanted to hit or accomplish. So more or less the same thing. And one of those things was to spend more time with my niece because I just feel like I could have done a better job. I always chose like doing other things instead of like spending time with her. So I was like, you know what, 2020, I'm gonna travel more. I'm gonna spend time with my niece. I'm gonna do all this other stuff. Pandemic hit. So the traveling thing was kind of out the window. I mean, I'm able to travel virtually, but like
when was I virtual travel?
When was I ever not allowed to do that, you know? But I mean, they do offer more things online now because of the whole us going virtual. So so when I look at being mindful this year, It's rearranging the way that I thought that I was going to achieve these goals, right? So like I had a set plan of how I wanted to spend time with my niece. I was like, okay, on the weekends, I'll hang out with her maybe like once a month, like we'll have a sleepover or something, get some snacks, whatever. Pandemic hit. I still have a job, but I'm furloughed. So I watch her a couple times a week. And a couple months in, I realized, wait, MaJhané, you're fulfilling your goal. Like you're spending time with your niece, you're getting to know her, as a person, and not just as, oh, that's my niece, like that's it, like we're actually having conversations, we're playing games, we're learning together, and it wasn't in the way that I had originally anticipated at the beginning of the year, because nobody anticipated life to be like this. Nope. But I still ended up fulfilling my goal. And I look at that moment and I see it as being mindful, because I could have very easily, if I chose to lean into being more upset that like, oh, now I have to play babysitter and watch my niece more times than I had originally, anticipated, because I was like, oh, maybe like one weekend a month, as opposed to like spending more than half my weeks with her. Which I know that sounds crazy. That sounds bad, but I just mean it to say like, that's not what I was thinking. I instead was like, wait, I'm spending even more time than I originally thought that I could, because I was just like, oh, I'm going to be so busy because I have work. I have, I'm trying to be social. I'm trying to do all these things, but pandemic was like, slow your roll, girl. We going to work at this a step at a time. So instead, you're going to make sure you spend a lot of time with your niece and get to know her so that y'all can build a real connection. And that's exactly what we did.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's what being mindful in 2020 at least looked like for me. Just taking the somewhat shitty moments, or not being able to like having like travel plans and having to cancel them. And then kind of just reframing it and reshaping it in a way that like it's still a positive outlook, because at the end of the day, I am still breathing. I'm still alive. I'm still here to, be social with my friends, even if it's not in person, and get to know my niece better. So, I mean, either way, I'm happy.
Yay! Well, that's good. Yes, positive outlook. Like, I mean, 2020 is so hard, right?
So
and
hard.
Again, like you said, like things just keep. There's a new awful thing every week. Sometimes it feels like every day. Like right now, it's just like, hey, everything's on fire. Like it actually feels apocalyptic. Like the sun is orange, the sky is red. Like that. It's so hard. So I'm so glad that you found that. And like for me, it's been such a struggle. It's just been so interesting. Like it's just been really interesting. And I think I have to be really now I'm learning that like I need to be really mindful about like who I spend my time with, like and like what. Now it's really translated to like what organizations am I actually like who do I actually want to be a part of,
right?
Like who is that really, because I need to think about who I actually want to associate, like what actually feels good to my soul. Like, like a lot of things have changed, a lot of relationships, unfortunately, especially when it comes to our social climate. And it's been a time of like basically like who, not even like, well, no, sometimes it's who's racist, and then sometimes is who is concerned about being called a racist versus anything else.
Right.
And so it's just like 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 what kind of institutions do you want to be part of? It's been really interesting and hard to like look back at myself and be like, I was definitely putting my career over the well-being of others, or like the possibility of my career over the well-being of others. And did I mean to do that? Like very straightforward and very like deliberately? No. but like I have to own up to some sort of the responsibility to be like, that was my part in upholding systemic racism. And like also like upholding like art is weird. Dance is just weird sometimes. There's a lot of sexual harassment that people just don't consider sexual harassment because this is dance and we all touch each other, and I'm like, this is inappropriate. You know, or like we all can talk about each other's bodies because dance, and it's just like not like that.
Right.
Not like that's not the same thing. This has become different. So it's just been really interesting. And then being mindful, like, you know, not to beat myself up, but to really look at like how I've made my choices and how actually like, you know, spending the time to be like, this affected this, which affected this. And just being mindful now to be like, okay, well, if I don't want to do that anymore, what do I need to think about when I'm like, again, like joining groups?
Right.
Or even just like, what does a civilized conversation look like? You know? And being like mindful about that. It's just been super, it's been a lot. It's been really interesting. Like, and overall, I think it's, at least for me personally, it's hard, but it's good because at least now I'm aware. Like, I feel like there's like, you know, the need, again, right? Being mindful, being aware. Like being aware is like really important.
And I do also want to add that like being mindful, it's not always like, you know, daisies and roses. Like you said, you have to kind of, you know, sit with yourself and kind of like ask yourself, like, are the things that I'm doing, like, where are ways that I could have, you know, been better, or I could have, you know, and it's not you judging yourself, but just kind of taking note and seeing how you can improve. And, you know, I had to do the same thing with mindfulness, especially with like relationships with my family, for example. I'm still working on that. And it's really just, especially something that I like to do on my podcast, is be as like transparent as possible. And that's for the good moments and the bad, because I definitely don't ever want to come off like I know everything and that I am the prime example and everything that I do that you see is absolutely right. Because it's not. I'm human. That's just not how life works. Then I do like to celebrate my wins, just like how I like to celebrate my losses, because I don't even think of them as losses. I just think of them as lessons that I learn. And so when we're practicing mindfulness, it's not always going to feel great. No. It's sometimes it's going to hurt and it's going to suck. And it's when you have to put your ego to the side and realize that it's bigger than how you're feeling. It's bigger than that ego. It's not, essentially that's basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, like it's so when I learned about mindfulness, it was when I was doing dialectical behavior therapy. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
It sounds like a mouthful. It sounds familiar though. I'm like, that's a lot.
Yeah, no, it is a mouthful. And so like what they have like these 4, oh my gosh, my brain, I can't think of the correct word. So, but there's like 4 different, the word isn't pillars or chapters. It's not even, that connotation is wrong, but something like that. Let's just say like sections where mindfulness is like one of them, is one of 4 that they really like discuss and delve into. And it was so funny because like being mindful is so hard for me. It was super hard for me because a big part of it was like, you need to like learning how to be mindful without being judgmental, right? Like learning how to like look at something and analyze something without judging it.
Yeah.
You know, like
it's hard.
It's super hard.
It's so hard.
It's just like, what is an example I can think of? Like it's so interesting because it's so hard because like you want to think about like, say you're beating yourself up because you're just like, oh, I want to go out and like dance like Friday night instead of study, right? And you're trying not to judge yourself. Like you're trying to be mindful and just be like, okay, what is this situation, right? Let me be aware of all the possibilities and all these different things. But it's hard not to have that aspect of judging yourself and be like, if you like go out instead of study, like you're a bad student, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not what mindfulness is. It's not supposed to be like the thing in your head that like kicks your butt back. It's
Right.
just supposed to be like, okay, well, if you don't study, what is going to happen here?
Right.
If you do study, what is going to happen here? Like, what are you
Yeah.
missing out on? So you can make this decision, not out of shame, but out of just like thought and awareness. But it's so hard. Like that's why I feel like practicing mindfulness all the time is so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can't just stop at like the one day where you're feeling like, all right, I feel strong enough to handle this, you know, I'll take a whack at it. And then you see what it's like. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, that was good. We'll try again next week, you know, like we'll pick up where I left off then. It's like, nah, gotta keep working at it.
Yeah, it's so true. What do you do to practice mindfulness?
It is funny that you mentioned, I guess not really funny because we're literally talking about well, you know what? It's crazy that you bring that up. No, but I also, so Kaiser offers this like app called like My Strength. I don't know if it's like specifically Kaiser, but I found it in my email. It offered like, they offered the Calm app, where you can do like meditations and stuff. They offered that for free for like a year because pandemic. But then they also offered this like My Strength app. And so it is a really cool app. It has a lot of different things that you can do. And one of the sections is on mindfulness, which has a lot of different like, I mean, I call them challenges, but just basically different exercises and ways that you can practice being more mindful. And so one that I've been working on recently has been mindfulness and self-esteem. And it's something that I am talking through day by day, step by step with my podcast. The one that I just dropped this morning actually is on day one of the activity, and it talked all about non-judgment. So I didn't even fully realize that it was important to not be non-judgmental until I did that exercise. And so lately I've been utilizing that app to kind of dig a little bit deeper into like the different ways that you can work on being more mindful. And now I'm seeing that I'm quite literally barely scraping the surface because it's so many subcategories, like mindfulness with eating, mindfulness with walking, with breathing, with all these different things. And so in this current moment, I'm working on self-esteem just because it doesn't hurt. Like anything that you offer that is a tool, I'm utilizing it, you know? So
yeah, because you can always improve on different aspects of your life. It's not just like, oh, I got confidence, done.
Right.
Like I won, it's over. It's like, no, because that can go back down like in a heartbeat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There is so much to mindfulness, and it's so funny because it's like those are some things I learned too. It's just like, you know, with your senses, like eating, mindfully eating, and what that is. And I remember when I first learned about mindfulness, I was like, I'm hella not mindful. Like
straight up.
Yeah, no, I was like, no, I'm never living in the present, is what I found out. And like, and it makes sense. Like, you know, I went to dialectical behavior therapy because I have mental illness, and one of those is anxiety, right? Like anxiety, depression, the things that keep you in the future and in the past, and you're never here.
Yeah.
So mindfulness was like, honestly, at the beginning, like for me, it was like a mind fuck. I was just like, I don't know how to sit here and just eat. Like, like just be focused on what I'm eating and not being like, oh, well, what am I doing later on? Like, or like, did I pack my clothes this morning? Like, do I even have like extra clothes? You know, like stuff like that, where like my mind is like working and having to go. And like, it's not a fun way to live, everyone. Like mindfulness, like can be so nice because you are in the present when you're like being aware of like what's around you and everything. Like you with your niece, like actually being aware and in the moment, not feeling like you have to hurry off to anywhere. Right. Or that like you have to like you have something like in the back of your mind, be like, dude, did I do that? Did I do that? Like, is that due tomorrow? Like, what's happening? And like actually be in the moment is like such a better way to live life.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And also live it more intentionally too, I think.
Yes.
Because the moments I feel like before now, the moments when I did hang out with my niece, I did have those thoughts in the back of my mind, like, okay, like I'm gonna hang out with you for a little bit, but gotta go soon, gotta hit up this party, or gotta do this and that. And it's okay to party, it's okay to have friends and stuff, but I could have done a better job of being present in that moment with her while I was in that moment with her, because at the end of the day, whatever happens to us, like these are the moments that we'll look back on, and think about and remember. And I want to be able to look back on all of my memories with people, with everyone, with you, like me having this conversation with you, like knowing that I was 100% fully there because I wasn't worried about X, Y, and Z in the back of my mind. Like I was able to be fully present and mindful in this conversation, because like that is the least I can do for somebody else. Like if we're going to be conversing, like I would hope that, that person would offer me the same respects.
Yeah, that I'm not just like thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner.
Yeah. Like, oh, can't wait to get off this phone so that I can,
It's just like, dude, yeah, I totally understand. And I so agree. And it's mindfulness is super cool, but it's also like such a hard skill. Like, again, like it takes time. Like it's so funny because for me, when I was like learning it at first, I am the person who what did I have to do? Basically, I practiced it with reading for a while, and I was just reading, and then like my mind would wander. I'm like, well, now I gotta read aloud.
I do read aloud.
Because then I can't think about other things. Or like it's obviously easier to come back. It's just like, well, obviously I've stopped reading, so my mind has gone somewhere else. Let's do it again. Or just like sometimes it's like the way we were taught to like not judge and be mindful. It's like if I'm here, I'm talking to MaJhané, and my mind does wander to like, what am I eating later? To just be like, oh, we've wandered off, let's come back. Instead of like, Trixie, you suck. Like you asked this person to come on your podcast and you're not even listening anymore, and then you beat yourself up and it's been like 3 minutes later and I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. That. And I think, and also being mindful is being patient with yourself and being forgiving of yourself, knowing that it's like, again, we're human, like it happens, and just noticing it, and then trying your best to kind of push those thoughts off to the side so that you can, same thing with meditation. Like when I first started, it was so easy to get sidetracked or to think about a million other things. And I still do sometimes, but all you have to do is just, okay, I acknowledge you. Okay, I remember I have to take the trash out later. Okay, I got you. All right, let's go ahead and move to the back. Okay, we're not focused on the trash right now. We're trying to get zen, like.
Yeah, it's a skill that definitely takes time, but I do believe it's worth it. Like, again, like having that quality time, because sometimes, when the world goes back to like,
when the world opens up, can't wait.
Yeah, when it opens up, we are all going to be more busy. So, like the time we have with each other really is precious. So it's like, how do you want to spend those? Sometimes they're just like minutes. Sometimes you have minutes with whoever's living in your house, like passing by. Like, how do you want to spend those minutes? Do you want to be like fully engaged or not? And whatever you choose is up to you, as long as like you're actually choosing and not letting life just go by you.
Right. Yeah, that is so true. And also another thing that I had forgot to mention, something that I've started doing in the morning, I like to call it the mindful hour. One main thing is doing my best to stay off my phone for like that first hour of me waking up, or I should more so say doing my best to stay off of social media, because I do use my phone for like meditations and things like that. But not checking emails, not going on socials, and just spending that hour, like doing my morning routine in terms of, brushing teeth, washing face, things like that. But also making sure I meditate as soon as I wake up. drink 8 to 16 ounces of water, do a couple of affirmations in the mirror, looking at myself so that, you know, like I'm not only verbally saying it, speaking it into the universe, I'm also saying it to myself. I can see myself. One of my favorite things to do is say, I love you. You know, I know that it was a time when I used to not tell myself I love me. So it hits a little different, you know, saying it now, especially looking at myself. So sometimes I'll smile, sometimes I'll cry. It really just depends, because sometimes you just need that little self pick me up, you know? And then I also like to, since earlier, like I said, like we all vibrate on a frequency. We all, our energies. I do like to listen to different frequencies that are meant for different things. Welcoming, like opening up a heart chakra, or just like a frequency that like invites love, or different things like that. I'm still kind of learning a little bit more about frequencies, so I don't really remember the actual like what numbers they are. Yeah. So, but I do like to listen to those while I am doing my affirmations and doing my morning stretches. And then by the time I do all of those things, the hour is up and it's like 7, because I usually wake up around like 6 in the morning. And then I'm just ready to start my day. And like, since I spent that time, that whole hour when I first woke up being mindful, like it just sets me up for like a super successful, productive day. And sometimes my days aren't productive even when I do it. But just the fact that everything that I do in that day, it's more intentional, because I had set that intention of, you know, like putting my all, even if it's 70% that day, like making sure I'm putting my all into whatever it is I choose to do.
That's awesome. I need to do that.
I recommend
it. Routines are so good. And that's something I need to do. Like, especially because like, I wake up and I'm like, let's go to Reddit, which is just like one of the worst social. No, I mean, no, they're all really bad for different reasons.
I can't understand Reddit for the life of me. I've been trying to get into it. Maybe it's a good thing that I'm not into it. I feel like it'd be a rabbit hole that I can't get out of, but
maybe. I mean, for a lot of people, yeah. There's real great stuff about it, and there's real awful stuff about it. Like Reddit can a lot of times be like the most hateful. If I'm going to be honest, like sometimes it is the most hateful, but it's also because it wasn't built on that. And sometimes that's just what happens when, you know, platforms grow bigger and more general. But there are a lot of like subreddits there that are like super cool and niche. Like that's why it's really cool. Like if you find subreddits that you like I found this new one. I think it's called Come In, All Gates Are Open. It's basically the opposite of gatekeeping. So they post a lot of like memes that are the opposite of gatekeeping. And I found that recently and I like subscribed to it so I can just look at it.
Yeah, I love that.
And feel nice.
Right.
Because like gatekeeping sucks and a lot of people do it. And it's like, it's really hateful. Like, especially with just like, now that being like a quote unquote nerd is cool, now there's like gatekeeping around what is a nerd and like what you need to like enjoy something. Or even if you just like say if you want to enjoy the Marvel movies, some people are like, like you're trying to be a nerd, like you're trying to be whatever. It's just like people can just enjoy things.
Yeah, let people like things. It's all right. It's okay.
Yeah. So Reddit has cool stuff like that, but it also can be like a trap for hate.
Okay. Fair. Which honestly is kind of like most other social media. Like I can think Twitter definitely has its moments where it is just terrible. But then it also has its super funny moments too. It just really, really depends.
Yeah, I would think that Reddit and Twitter are like cousins.
Okay.
And Twitter would be like its older cousin.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, because when I first went on Twitter, I definitely didn't understand how that worked either. And then eventually, as soon as I figured it out, it was like, I just could not stop. Like nothing stopped me from being on that app. So maybe, I think I'm good actually. I'll let you keep the Reddit. I'm already trying to quit Twitter, so I don't know.
Going back to your regimen and everything. I mean, I really like that. No, it's okay because I'm like, oh no, I can talk forever about like social media platforms. I'm gonna go step away from it now. But so I want to go back to your your regimen and everything. It just sounds really cool because it also just sounds like you are starting with your day about yourself.
Yes.
Like very like you said, intentionally, like about yourself. And I love affirmations, and I think everyone should do affirmations. I totally understand that sometimes you feel dumb like saying things, and especially in the beginning, and like
you feel super silly.
You feel super silly, and then you might feel like unfortunately some people will also feel really silly or really stupid because they're not hearing affirmations.
Right.
So, there's this part of you that actually feels like this is ludicrous. It's not something that you're used to. You're not used to like words of affirmation, and that is sad. Like, I mean, that's sad. I think that's sad, but at the same time, it like doesn't have to stay that way.
Right.
Like, yeah, that sucks that I'm not used to this and this feels weird, but like maybe I should actually give it a try, because I'd like to believe if like all the like those years someone like kept saying shit to your face and this is why you feel that way, that you can reverse that. Like, then it has to be that way. You know what I mean? It's like behavioral thing. It's just like, well, if I tell myself I love myself every day, then at some point it's going to sink in.
Yeah.
Because I just am, and I'm making the effort to.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I like them. I think affirmations are really nice, which is why I really liked at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
I do trust myself.
Yes, I trust myself as well. Took a minute to get here, but I can say it and mean it, and it feels amazing.
Yes, and that's why, oh my God, like I love, like making your own affirmations, right? Like that's the thing, like with affirmations, it's like you don't have to say things that other people say. You can have your own affirmation, like, and that's what feels nice because you can relate it to what you feel like you accomplished.
Right.
Like, and then it just becomes more you, literally like a part of you, and you just validating that over and over, which validation is super important in any relationship, even if it's like you and you.
Yes, speak on it. That is so true.
Yeah. Ooh, time is going by. Do I have another question for you? I mean, I have a lot of questions for you. It's really like, what question do I want to ask about mindfulness? You. Okay, so let's actually what advice would you give someone who is just like, who has stumbled upon mindfulness but doesn't really know what to do? It just sounds like something nice, and it sounds like something they want, but they don't necessarily know how to approach it. So what pieces of advice do you have? What different ways do you know of approaching mindfulness?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, as I said earlier, I'm barely scratching the surface of what it means to be mindful, because there's just so many different avenues and different ways that you can be mindful. So I feel like, just like with anything that's like a big task, it's always a great idea to kind of just take digestible bites, like just break it down into digestible pieces. So even if it's something as simple as setting 1 minute aside and, doing some deep breathing, or just kind of closing your eyes and trying your best to focus on, the thoughts in your head or your surroundings. Even my most favorite thing to use is YouTube for a lot of like meditations and stuff, if I'm not using my own. So when I first started getting into meditations, loved YouTube because it's a free app that you can use, and there's literally there's so many like meditations out there, especially for like mindfulness, and they vary in time too. So like literally you take your pick, like start at something with 1 minute or 5 minutes, and then like slowly build your way up. And I think another thing I would say is, like I mentioned before, just being patient with yourself, and giving yourself grace, and knowing that there are going to be moments where your mind wanders, or it may feel like you're not getting it, whatever it is. Maybe you feel like it's off or you're not doing it right. Trust in yourself, believe in yourself, and be patient with yourself, because mindfulness could look different to everyone. you'll know in your spirit, you'll know what it feels like when it hits. I promise you're gonna know when you get to that point, you're gonna feel it and you're gonna know. So just be patient with yourself, and just wait until you get to that moment, and then you'll know where to go from there. But I would definitely say, starting off, digestible pieces, be patient with yourself, and have fun. Like mindfulness, I know I might have scared you by saying that, it is some tough work sometimes. It just comes with the territory. When you're on the journey of self-love, self-discovery, working on yourself, trying to do better, be better, that's just how the cookie crumbles, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a fun time exploring those parts of yourself and learning about yourself. I learn new things about me every day, and I never cease to amaze myself, and I want that for you. So, just know that it's fun. It's a journey, but it's fun. It has its moments.
And I would like to add that, like there's a million different ways to practice mindfulness. Like meditation is one big one. There's lots of different ways to meditate. Obviously, with just like focusing on your breathing to like guided meditations. Listening to poems on YouTube with like the pretty background,
right?
Like, music, and then there's there are other things like if that's not your pace, like there are also exercises like you can pop in a Hershey's Kiss in your mouth and just like pay attention to how it feels in your mouth melting. Eat chocolate, be like, and listen to the thoughts that come out there. One of my favorite ones that I use, and I actually use this more for like, this is kind of like mindfulness / like distress tolerance. But like if my mind is getting really overwhelmed, then I just start naming colors, like all
I like that.
colors. Like, and if I'm really anxious, like sometimes it will go really fast, and like because when you're anxious and stressed out, there's all that energy.
Oh my goodness, yes.
To go somewhere, so I'll just start saying all the colors, and obviously I'll be repeating, but it doesn't matter because what I'm doing is trying to stay mindful on something so that my mind doesn't spiral down.
I love that.
And so like that's one of my favorite things to do because it's really easy. It's like colors. Just name all the colors, and like if you can't do it silently and that's not working and your brain is starting to spiral, then you can just do it out loud.
Right.
Like and it's all good. But that's like the cool part about mindfulness, like learning to like be aware and like set yourself in the moment or on one thing can be really powerful.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. I like that. I'm definitely taking that.
Dude, it's good. It really is good. Like I think like when you're like super stressed out and you get to that frazzled point, it's just like just start doling out the colors.
Yeah.
It's just like you're saying such neutral things.
Right.
It's not gonna turn into like ugly or like
right.
like
yeah.
Like it's just like they're just colors. You're just naming things. So it's really nice because you could just be like you can still have that frustration in you and be like red, white, yellow, but like you're not feeding anything necessarily. Right. You're just like running out of that energy so that you can relax. Final question, because we have reached the end. This hour has like already passed by.
Wow.
So what do you love most about mindfulness? That's it. I don't know why I ended the
wow. Yeah, right.
Well,
honestly, that question is so deep that it feels like it's more, What do I love about mindfulness? That is such a good question. I think ultimately, overall, the thing that I love the most about it is that it allows me to appreciate life, to just appreciate everything, appreciate the opportunities that I've been given. Yeah. Oh, that is such a good question, but I'm just gonna keep it at just appreciating, where I'm at, and that I definitely have. No, see, I was gonna say something judgy. Ooh. as we work on mindfulness in real time, folks.
Yes,
you are getting it here. But I'll keep it at, I love the fact that it allows me to appreciate everything, and that I can, it's not something that that I can gatekeep. It's something that's for any and everyone. And I love that I can share it with as many people as I possibly can, because that's just how important it is to me in my life. And that's just kind of what I want for everyone, to experience it.
Yay!
Well, I do want to know what is your favorite thing, or what do you love?
What do I love about
Yeah.
mindfulness? I think what I really love about mindfulness is that it really is helping me stay in these moments. Like it's kind of just like, you know, it kind of feels like a superpower where like everyone wished they could kind of just slow down life.
Yeah.
But like part of that, or not part of that, a lot of that is like internal. So like, again, like going back to like, you know, those moments we spend with family, like if I'm here, even if I'm here for 20 minutes, those 20 minutes, like it can, like they can mean a lot, you know, a lot can happen in those 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Really great things, like maybe not quantifiably a lot, but like quality a lot can happen. Like I can actually connect with the people.
Right.
You know, and so it feels like you're slowing, you know, that things aren't just passing by and you're never in one place. And so you're not really enjoying things, you're just getting through them. And so I feel like mindfulness is that superpower where it's just like, you are literally having time to enjoy things and the people you're around.
Right.
And like this superpower, like you said, is available to everyone. It just takes time.
Right.
But like having that is so important, man, especially, you know, like again now in 2020 where it's like I haven't seen a lot of people and how long, where it's just like, oh, I really wish, you know, like that I really did cherish those moments with them, instead of just like, bye, okay, see you later, and just like, just kidding.
Right.
Half a year later. Oh yeah.
Right.
So yeah, so that's for me, that's my favorite. Yeah, thank you for asking me.
Yes, I love that.
And thank you for being here. I loved having you. This has been really, really fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let everyone know where they can find you, MaJhané.
Yes, you can find me on pretty much everywhere where you get your socials. I am on Instagram. My podcast is below. It's Mama Majism, MaMaJism. If you want to follow my personal account, it is Despicable May. I know, so cute. Despicable MAEE, 2 E's. I'm never letting that username go. And so Mama Majism and Despicable May, you can find that everywhere, Facebook. And in my Instagram for both Mama Majism and Despicable May, I have a link tree with all of my links for different ways that you can listen to my podcast. So
yes, please check out her podcast. It's super nice. Also, she puts music in her podcast.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But again, like what I said in the beginning, right? She starts with like with the mindfulness exercise, and then you just get MaJhané, which is nice. Like just like actually authentic person. Authentic person saying what they want, which isn't always what we get. Like
true.
In these days, which is another conversation, but I really do appreciate you coming in. For everyone listening now and or who will be listening in the future, thank you again. Check out her podcast, and if you are able to, please check out Dee Dee McClure's San Diego Bail Fund. It is our local grassroots bail fund. Their link is streaming right there down at the bottom. There are people still protesting, so let's help out our community. That's really important. So if you're able to do that, please consider. And until next time, like everyone, have such a wonderful night, and maybe practice some mindfulness, some breathing, some affirmations,
all of that. Love yourself today, tomorrow, and next week, and then forever.
Yes.
Don't stop.
Don't stop. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.